So now we are live and we can get started with AyAyAyAi.
AyAyAyAi. Did I do it right?
There's no right or wrong here. There's more like the capturing that excitement, and I think we're talking, and as we're talking, I realized that you're probably as excited as I am about AI machine learning because knowledge management is such a good shining use case for AI machine learning. So I think from your knowledge management, subject matter expertise, and your teaching and your training, you probably are very excited about AI. So yeah, I think you did it very right.
I'm excited with a pause, with some pause.
And we're talking about big news here, right? Six
Yeah,
months of pause in AI GPT-4 training. Um,
yeah.
are you for it or would you be against it? Like, what's your thought on that?
I'm for it if part of the purpose of it is really to evaluate, what are we doing with it, right? I mean, all stuff, not just the functionality, right? But really like what are the impacts been so far? What are we learning about what potential impacts there could be in the future? And what are we doing about it? I mean, there's so many people asking really important questions, specifically around ethics and bias and all of that. And I think those are the questions we really should be pausing to take time and think through. Not just the technical capability, but also the impacts, the implications of what this technology can do.
And the user experience is great so far.
Sure.
The user experience great so far, but user experience to turn bitter, user experience to flip,
Yeah.
or the user to turn against the product. It, it, it in technology world, I'm trying to find a product that you turn down, right? And then you say like no more. In
Mm-hmm.
technology, you always have that, whatever we did in the past, we'll fix it, we'll move away from that harmful product. It never shuts down. It always has that phase of, I'm sorry, I screwed up. I made billions, so let me do it again, right? Um, and the obvious suspect here, right? Zuckerberg, right?
Yeah.
And these issues with AI machine learning to correct the path, as in instead of AI that drifts away from its model versus AI that is sabotaged or AI that does that unintentional consequences of having AI machine learning, right? There's a need to monitor and have policies put in place to have that AI come back to what it was originally intended for, and what are the good AI that will come out of it rather than those dark side of AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just don't know. I mean, to be honest, I just don't know. It caught me off guard to hear that 6 months of probation or 6 months of shutdown for AI machine learning. Just not possible. Even if you want to start tomorrow, maybe in six
Mm-hmm.
months they'll figure out how they will shut it down for 6 months. But by then, 6 months already have passed and nothing has changed, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
one of the concerns that I do have is that AI for all versus AI for few is the concern that I have. I'm very, very concerned with that. AI for all means um, um, everybody can participate in developing their own AI.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a situation where we have today. There's very few people have AI, and they are in control and in charge of that AI training. So as
Mm-hmm.
we are not developing AI that is well trained by multiple levels of, say, government or a nonprofit organization or for-profit organization, it seems to be that it's Google and Microsoft, the same player over and over, Facebook over and over, just like it has been for all the other social media or monopolizing the tech industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is my concern. So here I go, not knowing how to feel about it. It's kind of like I already know what that 6 months probation is going to be like. It will never happen. You know, the same guys that are in charge of all this technology, they're not going to be like, oh yeah, let me volunteer myself to shut down my money making scheme for next 6 months.
Right. Well, and in many ways, I kind of think, like a pause to do our own reflection on impact would be valuable. But on the other hand, I was reading some things that I other people had written a long time ago about AI, and the thing that keeps sticking out for me is that one of the possibilities that comes from AI is that it will be able to do things that we can't even imagine, right? So what's interesting is it's hard to put the human brain with its own limitations on something like AI, right? Because in many ways, if you pause it, if you don't let it think and work itself out and let things sort of surface, how is it supposed to, how is it supposed to figure out those things that we can't even imagine yet, right? I mean, and on the one hand, it's a little bit nerve wracking for the humans, right? To allow machines to do that, but at the same time, isn't that what it's supposed to do? Like, isn't that what we want it to do? We want it to think bigger and different than us, and to be able to do things that we can't even comprehend. And so sometimes I feel like, we have this argument about how human beings need to be involved because we need to do something about bias, and we need to do something about accessibility and things like that. And I believe that's absolutely true. But I also feel like we can also get in the way of those things, those unimaginable things surfacing. And I think, some people will say the unimaginable is the evil things, right? Like the dark AI, sure. But it could also be the good AI. You don't know, right? Like it could be things we haven't even conceptualized, right? So I don't know. It's good and bad.
Yeah, I think with the AI that I've been looking at for however many years I've been paying attention to AI. Even to me, like this was a shock, right? This whole year of 2023 has been just one after another shock, right? So I'm just wondering to mass, as in like social media, like you've seen probably AI mentioned here and there, but not the way you've seen it since December of um, last year, right? Not the way it has been for last 3 months. It has been insane amount of discussion about AI machine learning. So it must be a shock to many of the people to find out that there's a system of AI machine learning that is capable of mimicking human brains and humans' activity, and either to be a digital twin, right, one that augments or assists you, or digital you literally to replace you, right? And I don't mean it lightly as in to replace you, because there's an AI right now that's able to communicate like a dead person would.
Mhm.
That's that digital you, right?
Mhm.
That digital version of you could be hacked, could be sabotaged, could be taken over by somebody, or used for deep fake purposes, right?
Mhm.
So the spectrum is wide, and look, I wasn't shocked about it when I first heard about it. I was like, oh, this things make sense, because that's how much you can train your data in order to produce that output that is shockingly good, right? Shockingly good, as in it will uh, almost pass Alan Turing's test of is it a human or not, right? That's the Alan Turing's
Mhm.
matrix of what an AI is. Um,
Mhm.
but for the last 3 months, how it's been spinning out all sorts of capabilities, it's just amazing. It's to me is a shock, and I'm wondering how that you know. Okay, I think Lucky's back. Oh, Lucky, you're back.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, loud and clear, loud and clear. It's working.
Okay, so I'll use this mic
Yeah.
instead. Can you hear me now?
Oh, we can hear you. We can
Yep.
hear you. So this is the Pedro Pascal of AyAyAyAi.
No Pascal.
Oh man.
The good-looking one, right?
Sorry to interrupt in between, and So it sounds good. I mean, I agree, but I didn't know that Elon Musk had and others had petitioned to stop GPT
Right.
3, Chat GPT, or any type of technology. Why is that? That's
Uh,
interesting.
well, actually, okay, I'll give you a brief to 2014. Elon Musk stated very clearly, like, this AI machine learnings are very harmful if it's not regulated. So he called for regulations from the governments, from the organizations outside of AI developers, right? As in somebody to oversee how these AIs are developed, right? And of course, that was not taken very seriously, right?
Mhm.
So come 2015, 20s and 2022s, you have all this development, and there's no oversight even to this day. So now he's asking for oversight within the 6 months, while people are reevaluating these capabilities, and looking at the impact, negative and positive, of these technologies, right? Because I think, if I may add to the piece, that people consider themselves as an AI user, just like people consider themselves as a social media user, right? But what
Mhm.
happened with social media over time is that as you are using social media, what you don't realize is that your relationship with the social media has changed. Where you used to use social media, now social media uses you. But you will still never admit that, because it's easier to fool somebody than to have them admit they've been fooled, right? So social media has that relationship right now, where social media is using other people, right? Where AI has the same possibility, as in you start using AI thinking that you are in par with everybody else. All of a sudden, you start realizing that AI is using you, because that AI is able to manipulate you personally, right? As in, it knows your personality and it's able to target your personality to manipulate you further into buying or making decisions, or having you label things that are probably aren't the best labeling available in community, right? It's not good for community. It's not good for a society in whole, right? I don't want to use the master and slave kind of terminologies here. I want to avoid that, but it is that who's using who is the ultimate concern, because in a bubble you feel like you're using an AI that everybody else can see, but actually that AI is only your AI. It's only reflecting off of your personality and it's feeding you information, that you might not be able to recognize as is it normal or not.
Okay. Well, so Jamie, what do you think?
So as you were talking, I think what I was thinking was different grades of relationships, right? Like there's abusive relationships, there are relationships that are unhealthy, but they help you grow,
Mhm.
and then there's healthy relationships, right? And over time, I mean, we'll call out Facebook as an example, right? Facebook started as just a way for university college students to connect with one another, right? That was the initial idea that swiftly turned into something completely different. And then once they opened it beyond that initial audience, it just went crazy. But people didn't realize what was happening behind the scenes with Facebook. They just thought, oh, this is a great way for me to connect with my friends and my family. And, and then we still had our ethical issues about, well, but is there, I mean, I know I'm one of the many people who had two Facebook profiles, right? One for your family and friends and the other for your work, because as it started getting more, prolific, you started wondering how you're going to manage your identity, right? And so we were dealing with that. I think that, and we being like just kind of the general community of users at large, but what we weren't understanding at the time was just how Facebook was using our data, and that we were the product, that Facebook was not the product, we are, right?
Mhm.
And because of the way that it was introduced into society, I think people still grapple with that. Like they don't understand, like, and then if they do, they don't care, because Facebook has been to them and has connected them and them connected with people. So I love Facebook because it's my friend and it lets me do all these good things, right? But on the
Yeah.
side, but if, I mean, hopefully most people are aware of how much Facebook uses our data to make money, and to, do all those wonderful, tricky things that helps, companies understand how to market to us and what to market to us when, et cetera. So, whereas AI, if you say AI, there was an article about AI from 30 years ago. Like, what was AI going to be? But it's always been like the thought of Skynet, the thought of, like Terminator, the world's going to end. I think that's always been associated with the moniker of AI. So people have, still today think, oh, AI is going to, it's evil, it's going to take over everything. And again, I mean, people as in the public at large. I think technologists, I think professionals and businesses and the government looks at AI in completely different ways than I think the average citizen, you know. And that's what needs talking about, right? Because I think for, I'm gonna have many comments about how the mindset of the average citizen is changing, but I think it's almost like the imperative of the government and organizations and people like Elon Musk who know the power of AI to do what he's trying to call for. It's critical, right? Because now we're at a point where technology can indeed do really evil things if we allow it, right? And we're not smart enough to stop it. And that's really kind of what we're admitting, right? Like once you let it go, it'll just keep going. So, let's put the brakes for a second and go, what are we doing to ourselves here? Right?
I think a good analogy of that, you've driven a car all your life, and you should take a break before you start driving for NASCAR. Seriously, you should not be in a NASCAR or driving an F1 race car, thinking that I've driven all my life, I'm ready to drive an F1 race car. I don't think you are. It's not that you can't, but you shouldn't, right? At least get a life insurance first, right?
I think people are still in Autopia cars. See, that's the problem. Like people are still in Autopia on a track with their cars, with their understanding of what this technology really is, right? It's cute, it's fun for the general public. But I mean, my kids don't love talking to Alexa and doing fun stuff, right? But it can be deeper than that. So if we know this, if we know it's that F1 race car, like, how are we even preparing ourselves for that? And and then is it good to just say immediately, like I kind of feel this whole Elon Musk trying to get government regulation immediately. Who does that? Tell me a company that has asked for government regulation on their product. Tell me, anybody, any company who has been like, I think we really should be regulated. Nobody. And that tells you you how scary this can possibly be, right? You're asking for regulation from a government? Okay, stop, pause. That should be enough cause for pause right there. Right? So, I mean, that's serious. I think that news is really serious and we should really be considering it. Because last time I checked, Elon Musk isn't really a guy who likes regulation or rules or structure of that kind. He's for boldly going where nobody's gone before. Not just Congress saying please regulate me. So
it's very interesting. Elon's very calculating. He's always ahead of, it seems, everybody. And if he says he's scared, you almost want to say, okay, I believe you, Elon. But at the same time, Microsoft came up with Copilot, and they're breaking all the rules right now, and they're just putting AI or AI type of services, not so much where before it was out in the public, but it was still a little cryptic because you had to figure out how it worked. Now it's in your face, and I don't know if anyone was ready for that. I think Microsoft caught everybody with, so to speak, with their pants down, because they didn't think that someone's. I didn't see it. I didn't see Microsoft or anyone just releasing something out so quickly and it's available. So I mean, that in itself to me would be scary to other people. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what 6 months. I'd like to see what Elon Musk is saying, but more towards what you do. there's power, and speaking on the points you guys made with Facebook, Facebook was the first company that I mean, you could always see within the .nets and software providers and the internet, there's going to be a goods and services somehow. You figured you saw a model and how it made money. And then you started looking at social networks and like things like Facebook, and you kind of wondered how is that making money, and because you're wondering how is that making money, like you said, you're the you're the cattle to slaughter at that point. You don't even know it. You're being led to slaughter, and all of us are, we're the money, and that's hard for people to understand, because for me, I still didn't see it. Even now that I work in technology and we have these conversations and we talk about privacy, it's still hard to imagine that Facebook, and just because they have us in their network, that what they deliver is information about us, and our privacy is worth dollars, right? Dollars and cents. But that's what it is. And like you said, we don't give it up. We don't. But, specifically, knowledge is power. Data is power. What do we take and assign algorithms to? Without the data, we have nothing. And that's where, Facebook and others have optimized, what data sources they can turn and use for obviously making millions and billions of dollars. And so, turning it around to a positive note, uh, so Jamie, what is new in your world? What tell us more. It's been a while, so tell us more about what's going on.
Oh my gosh, what's new in my world? When it comes to knowledge management, I
Mhm,
think there's definitely a whole lot of chatter about AI. That's
mhm,
the focus of conversation right now. From an academic standpoint, of course, everybody's talking about, what does this do? And, I think at Columbia, for example, there's a lot of people that are panicked about like things like academic integrity, right? But
mhm,
I think in our program, in the information and knowledge strategy program, we're excited. Like, I'm excited about how will our students use that kind of technology, right? And I mean, I'll give you a good example. I think it's a good example, right? We just opened our program to international students. And I actually think some of our students have used AI, used ChatGPT during interview even to be able to express themselves better in English, right? And some people might say, "Oh, that's kind of cheating." I actually think that that's helpful. I mean, imagine, if you think about like, I'm going to use a lot of Star Trek references because I have Star Trek like blaring on my mind for some reason.
We love Star
Um,
Trek. We talk about
I do love Star
Yee!
Trek, but like, because like, have you ever thought about the fact that like I don't for a while I just assumed that like on the on the Star Trek TV show that we hear everything in English, but that everybody's hearing each other in their own languages, and
mm,
that like everybody's speaking in their own languages. We're just hearing it in English, right? Because they have the technology to be able to translate people. Because we did, in the future, in that universe, we did not all become one language speaking. Everybody's still unique. Everybody still has their own languages and cultures, but they somehow understand each other, right? So I mean, anyway, so I feel like, wow, that's a kind of technology. If we can get learners from other places in the world who do come from different cultures that speak different languages to be able to use AI to help us connect and collaborate better in ways that we all can understand one another, like what a great application of that technology, right? That's not cheating. That is selectively assisting yourself, so that you can more fully participate in the world that you are in, whether it's academics or work or whatever. So those are the kind of things on my mind right now is like how can AI, even in its more simple or more, like common forms that people are seeing and using, how can that really help us get together in ways where maybe there were barriers before? Maybe we couldn't collaborate as effectively or work as well together. So that's where I think my brain is at the moment, is how it can widen our circles as opposed to threaten our environment.
So
yeah.
if knowledge is if the knowledge is power, like Lucky said, what is a knowledge management teacher? Is she like the god? Like knowledge is power. Like who? If you are able to hold the knowledge,
All of the
in the
information.
classroom, you're the knowledge management guru. So what do you call yourself? Like,
So I think so. This is funny, right? Like I was the fleet knowledge management officer for the Navy for the Pacific Fleet. Like I think I started that job in 2008, but 2008. And I used to get that question all the time. You're the knowledge manager. Like that's a lot of. You're the knowledge manager for the fleet. That's a lot of knowledge to manage, as if I did it. Like, and that's not it.
I know.
Managers do, right? We don't hold the knowledge of the world, right? I know, but it's funny. But I mean, I'm glad you brought it up because people always say that, but like, there's a better saying than knowledge is power that I've come across in my career, and it's knowledge shared is knowledge squared, right? And I think that actually speaks more to the job of a knowledge manager or in person who's a knowledge strategist or knowledge worker, right? It's not only having the knowledge, right? It's just it's just like you're talking about. Like you can have a lot of data, so what, right? You can have gobs and gobs of it. Most organizations have tons of data they don't even know what to do with. But the value of it is in the relationships between that data that they have and how they not only correlate the data they have to make information, but how they then apply their own sense making, how they apply their own processes to making it real knowledge, right? That's usable, that's that you can commodify, that you can do things with. It's because data on its own is just, you can't really do much with it unless you process it and experiment with it. So for me, what does a knowledge management teacher do? I think I teach the capstone course in our master's program, and I forever be adamant about the fact that that course is a team. It's a team project-based course. And other capstones in our school are not the same. You can do that as an individual. But I think the reason it's important for a knowledge strategist to do a capstone course as a team is to recognize that in the world, no matter what you do, you can be an outstanding individual. You and your individual knowledge and power will go much further, albeit harder sometimes, but it will go much further if you work in community, in partnership, in collaboration with other people. And so I think a lot of my job as teacher and as knowledge strategist is to help people figure out how to use what they know in context and in community with other people, because that's really hard to do for a lot of straight up don't want to create. And so how do you open that in today's workforce? Home, right? What you do with what you know.
Yeah. So if I was to advocate for knowledge management, it will take over the AI advocacy. I would say yes, AI is cool, but have you done your knowledge management process very well? Where are you with your knowledge management? The question would be, where is your data points? Where are the data points, and how are you piping your data points to your data lake or data warehouse? How are you able to take that in and structure it in a way that you are now ready to develop your AI machine learning? Because if you haven't done that piece of knowledge management, you're leaving out so much potential that this AI mission of yours will just shrink itself down to a point of loss only, right? It's not going to win you a lot. And this knowledge management, that ability to look at your unstructured data as in your Zoom call, your text messages, your phone calls, and your requirements. I'm not talking about spying on people. I'm just saying voluntary information that people can actually utilize And your future projects will not be, oh, this is a new project. No, this is project 1001, as in we've had 1,000 different iterations of the same project. We've been just doing more projects on top of the original one, right?
Mhm.
That's the power of knowledge management. I think the version iteration control is such a loss when it comes to developing AI machine learning, right? As in, you develop that AI machine learning, now you lost all the talent that developed that AI for you. Now they're all gone. Now you can now no longer go forward with a better AI. You're stuck with an AI that they left you with, and you cannot maintain it because the new talent that came in, they're not able to understand why the system was built the way it was, right? Why was it so strong? Why was it so popular? Why was it so good, right? And I'll give you a perfect example of that. I am not bringing this out of the sky. There's no use case for it, or there's no truth behind that. Google is a perfect example of that. Love you, Google, but you are not doing your knowledge management very right because you couldn't do version iteration to get to the point of Microsoft today. Microsoft did what you could have done 20 times over, but you are behind Microsoft at this point. That's a shame. And I can say that out loudly because I don't have to work for Google. I hope I never work for
Dang it, missed on that boat.
this on Google.
Yeah.
Call me, Microsoft.
It's okay. I think they fired like 10,000 of their employees or something like last month. So, uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not
Maybe,
the
maybe
same.
not for me.
Yeah. And you hit it right on the head. Knowledge management. Okay. So I've worked somewhat in knowledge management, but only in the word of the sense that we're trying to manage data that for technical reasons. And so, but every organization is going to have their data and what that data is and how it applies. It's going to have business data. It's going to have customer specific, maybe IT data, and then you're going to have data that's critical data to your business that you want to protect. And all these different types of data, they need to be they need to know how they fit in the organization and how do you prepare that data and make it more actionable and more ready for people that need to view it. And then once you start doing that, you say, okay, fine. Now we're able to we know how our data is arranged. We know how to prioritize our data, what's critical, what's not critical. So how does it speak to us now? We don't know what we don't know. And so that's where you start to take time to start to deliver something, not so much AI, but you start dabbling into machine learning, deep learning, where you start to look at your data from a different angle and say, all right, we see it this way. Let's apply some algorithms and let's see what but the first going back to the first step is just realizing what you have, what knowledge management, what are we working with? What's critical to our organization? What's the secret sauce? What do we have to protect? What is actionable data? Who's our customers? How do we grow? All that with knowledge management, it's like the first step when it comes to deep learning or machine learning to get you to the point where you can take advantage of making better decisions with things like AI. But that's still, but still that knowledge management, I see that's the first step. That's where you realize what we have. What are we working with? I don't know if I'm far off on that.
I agree. No, I think the first step is inventory, right? And
Okay.
understanding and being explicit about what matters to you or organization. But also, I would say if we're going to utilize a cognitive type capabilities, what we also want it to do is tell us what we don't know, right?
Mm.
Um, we know what we know about our data. We think we know what we know about our company, about, like whatever our corporate is. We think we know what's valuable and we think we know what the secret sauce is. But the hope and expectation has been that AI would partner with us, tell us more. Because maybe we're not seeing the thing that we really need to be seeing. Maybe there's more gold in them hills, as people would like to say.
Mhm.
But we don't know yet because we've got we've got all this information shared or stored in different places, and we haven't connected dots. I mean, like, I just think back to very basic early knowledge management type projects, right? Like, and people still focus on things like expert locators, for example. This is pretty standard management product, right? Let's figure out who knows what, who speaks what languages, who has this expertise, who's worked on these projects, right? And we can surface that and put that in something that we can organize. Then, if out of the blue we start up down the road of we have a project, we need these different experts. We know how to do that. An expert locator, right? That's the premise, the idea. So like, it's not people explicitly saying, because in an expert locator, you fill out a form. It's like kind of like your LinkedIn profile, for example. You're filling out the data of here's what I know and here's what I do. But what if in a company, based on all the knowledge we create and share and emails and chats and whatever, that we can surface without our intervention, right? Connections and associations with data, so that we're like, okay, well, I'm starting to realize that 30 people in our organization are really into project management, right? Like, let's say that, like, they're really into project management and they're successful. And then, by the way, they're getting all of these feedbacks from clients saying how awesome they are. Like, maybe we need to put this dream team together, right? It's stuff like that. Like, I mean, and that's very basic examples, but I say that to illustrate the fact that, there's participatory knowledge management, right? Where we create a taxonomy and we tell everybody, code things this way, tag your stuff, do this, right? Bane of my existence. I hate that so much, right? Because people don't think like that. You don't create things and go, oh wait, what was this about? Yeah, this was about, this was about art and this, like, you don't think that. You just create your thing and then you move on to the next thing, right? So the hope is that AI, something smarter than us, goes, oh yeah, what you were talking about was this. I'm going to put that away, and use that knowledge later. Right.
Well, when somebody's searching for a job, right? Well, let's say for me, I'm looking for a job. The way to make that job hunting process easier is to create a catalog or a library of information about how I will get fired from that job, right? So that catalog overburdens you with the job hunting possibilities. As in, like, it makes your thought process, like, job hunting is much easier. It's just not to get fired would be the best way to go about it, right? Because what if I do get the job, but I get fired real quick? So to make that job hunting process easier, go through the list of all the reasons you will get fired from a job. And one of the ways I'll get fired from a job is by talking about explicit and tacit data, right? Explicit knowledge and tacit knowledge. Because if I'm walking in to discuss with the decision makers about their,
I would fire you for having that conversation.
one of the things that I will talk to decision makers about AI is that it's a hard process. But let me tell you what's harder. Harder is to say you have all the resources in the world, all the money in the world to collect data, but what you have collected is not enough. And that's when I get fired, right? Like, now you got to find more data, right? You have to do better data acquisition. You have to do more data acquisition for the purposes of AI machine learning development. And that's when I get to told, like, please leave the chair, get out of the room, and close the door behind you as you leave, right? Don't let the door hit you, right? So that's how I get fired. But that's the truth. Is that the companies and organization for the last 20 some years has been collecting data for data auditing purposes, very specific knowledge, that explicit and tacit knowledge. They went after what was required by regulations, right? Or what is that I need to know for last 7 days or last 7 months or last 7 years, right? 7 years being tax purposes, last 7 months being, how do I plan for the next 7 months by manually inputting information into it, right? And last 7 days, as in like, what kind of shortages do we have in inventory that is not a normal 7-day cycle. Those are just examples. But I'll get fired to talk about the fact that, look, those are handy business industry process that you actually were capable of paying for and buying, right? But the future doesn't work that way. Future will work differently. Future will work on your data portfolio. Will have to include what sort of human resources do you have? What are some of the human capitals that you're holding on to? Oh, you have 30 project managers that are Scrum Master certified and they know ins and out of your business process. Well, that's better than somebody who has none. And you have that knowledge, your understanding of like putting the right people into the place. They speak multiple languages, and you're able to utilize those skill sets to do project management overseas. You should have those information. Your data catalog should indicate your human capital along with all your AI capabilities, all your business process capabilities, the products that you're selling. How are they selling? What are they selling for? What's the season and what's the off season? How do you do your inventory, warehouse management, right? Sales and distribution, procurement, acquisition. How do you do all that? These are all data sources, but we've been collecting data for those purposes of business process only, not so much for human capital, not so much for understanding our organizational workflow, not understanding what sort of RPAs that will benefit us that can scale itself over time. So these kind of knowledge, explicit and tacit knowledge, is very difficult conversation to have, right? Because we want to get to AI yesterday, not tomorrow, right? Because we're already late in the AI game. I don't have time to listen to your explicit and tacit knowledge, one that what will take up more time for me to go through, right? Or more investment I have to do in data acquisition. But I'm not a comedian, so I'll end with another joke. Everybody wants an AI, but nobody wants to clean up the data, right? Dirty data is what.
Yeah, well,
And dirty data is
yeah,
you have to add more knowledge management too.
you're saying should be garbage in, garbage out, people. I mean, that's the thing. Garbage in, garbage out. If you want to take advantage of really valuable data and knowledge, that's what you have to collect, right? I mean, this is like we can't be the hoarders of information. Like, and I say that, because we always talk about information or knowledge hoarders, but I'm serious. Like, I'm talking like hoarders with like bunnies in their walls, like the TV show hoarders. Like, that's just garbage. It's just they're collecting garbage that they think is valuable, right? And I'm not trying to slight people. I know that is a serious thing that many people go through. But
You're making fun of me right now. I'm not laughing. Look at me. I'm sad.
but
Not offended,
no,
just sad. I know what I'm collecting.
But you know what I'm saying, right? Like, we can't, because I think earlier in the earliest days of knowledge management, the focus was information management. It was, let's make sure we get all these pieces of paper into a computer, right? That was the first sort of era of knowledge management, is taking what's on pieces of paper and putting it in some kind of technology so we can use it in a different way, right? But that also turned into hoarding. That just turned into like, just throw everything in there, right? I mean, a classic example, I'll use a military example, right? We have classified and unclassified networks, right? And do you think everything on a classified is classified? No. people put things there that don't necessarily belong there because it was easier to access it all in one place, right? Facts, right? So you got garbage, right? You said garbage in, garbage out, and I think that's important, that people don't understand that yet. It's like a lot of companies spend a lot of money putting information into systems. Portals, my gosh, I hate portals. But we invest money in putting things into portals, right? And what did that do? Did that make us any smarter? Not really. Did it make organizations smarter? Not really. It just gave you a fancier filing cabinet, right?
So did you not ever run into that one
same thing for
person,
AI, right? We're just talking at a different level now.
You've never run into that one person that got smarter by SharePoint? You haven't run into him yet? I don't think it exists.
Never. If they're out there, call me because I want to know you. I don't. I don't
I want to get to know you because you got
because
smarter
a
by
lot of people
SharePoint.
in the world could benefit from that.
So, well, look, I mean, we are pretty much, I guess, what is it called? Putting salt in the wound at this point, right? So those people that are thinking of solution here, let me put some thought process in your head. Let me put some food for thoughts in your head as you're listening to this podcast. You want to reach out to Jamie, you want to reach out to Asif, you want to reach out to Lucky, whatever your thought process is. You want to talk about data, come to me. You want to talk to a cybersecurity expert, go to Lucky. You want to talk to knowledge management goddess, go to Jamie, right? But we can give you some solutions here. I think we got about 10 minutes left to finish up this podcast here. But the solutions are like this. Next time you hire somebody, you don't have to onboard them for 6 days and train them for 6 months to bring them up to speed to replace the last person who left the company. Your 6 days is your AI machine learning teaching that person not only about your culture of your organization, but also teaching the job that they will need to do in order to replace that valuable human capital that just left your company with a giant hole, right? And not everybody leaves you a giant hole, but sometimes they do. But if you start practicing of training your next onboarded employee with short amount of time with using AI machine learning capability, as in you're able to teach the knowledge that that employee needs to learn with the help of a digital twin is a perfect example of that, right? A digital twin is a system that will be able to learn as the employees is performing their duties, right? And the employee that's performing his duty, that digital twin doesn't necessarily have to replace that employee. What it does, it finds ways to help that employee to do more as it's learning more and more about what is that employee is trying to accomplish, right? So using your own data, using your own knowledge process, as in the good knowledge management that you'll put in place, so that way your employees will say, why would I ever leave this job? And why would you ever need to onboard somebody to, replace me? Because I'm not going anywhere, right? Unless I screw up, I'm not going anywhere. So you see, it works both ways. You retain an employee for life because you're providing them with a workspace that has a digital twin concept built into your laptops or your work machine, and that work machine is continuously learning all the things that the employee is doing, how it does it, what was some of the kinks that employee saw that had to click on a mouse 3 or 4 times in order to get to that let's call it a SharePoint folder.
Mhm.
But it's working towards solving these issues for the employee. So why would that employee ever leave? But let's say the employee does leave. Now you have a shorter period of transition in order to train up the next person, right? That's the first mile of knowledge management journey for me, right? And the last mile, or actually not last mile, but like somewhere in the middle of that journey, I would say tap into your archive document, tap into those documents that you've been hoarding on a server that's costing you money and is just sitting there collecting dust so IRS can come and check it at one point, right? Which they never will because they're not going to go that far into your servers because they don't have the technology for it. They would like to. So what you can do is take that business rule mining AI machine learning and dump that into your business rule mining. So that way, dump that into your archived data servers. So that way it's able to go through all the data and figure out what it is that you do as a business. What are some of those gaps in your business that you can fix from your historical data? Use your historical data to have a better business process for future business process, right? How do you lean mean that business process? How are you able to articulate an idea or collect new information from your employees in the meetings, right? How do you do sentiment analysis for your employee engagement level? Have those employees become more connected with each other's thought process to say, if me and you work on this project together, we'll probably will get it done in 3 months. But if we have to bring in John, who never likes anything AI, who always hates technology, it probably will take us 9 months. So why not, let John do what John does, which is the manual task, and we will do the AI machine learning task. We'll do the project in 3 months. We can because we have those same wavelength of understanding on topics that we like to work on, right? So those are Those are the type of explicit and list tacit data that we can identify, but we have to look for that solution, and that solution, it's in my imagination somewhere, but it's actually almost 75% real. Like we already have those processes in place. We already have lots of this data in place. We just have to do more and fine tune it better, so that way it's effective, it's visible. As in, you will be that beaming, shining example of corporation that says, "Yeah, we do knowledge management like nobody's business." Right? We are the knowledge management goddess, like Jamie is.
I agree. uh, knowledge management is it's one of those things that it
People
over
need to have a
time.
strategy,
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead, Lucky.
but not a strategy that you write and then you leave behind. Like a strategy that you actually rework over and over again. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the living, breathing document that we don't have today, right? We always talk about a living, breathing document. I mean, the living, breathing document is only as good as somebody who's taking the notes, right? Because that person that took the notes, they will never share with anybody. So what's the point? And nobody will come and take a look at it, right? So living, breathing document is something that we need to work with, because living, breathing document is not Microsoft Word document. It's a document that is AI, machine learning, technology that will be able to say, like, every content you provide me, I'm able to relate that to the original document, right? That single document, the master document, to have that master document provide us with insights that we probably forgot. We probably didn't have the know-how to relate that information to the old master document.
Yeah, yeah. So when it comes to knowledge management, what I can see in the future, and I'm kind of tying in Copilot again. Um, Copilot takes a perspective of your entire organization, and it starts to be able to manage how your the different data sources you have, and it enables it to be able to work for you. So I don't know how that's going to work with knowledge management, but I can only seeing it enhancing more of the services that you provide in that area. Only because at the end of the day, it's doing the same thing. It's graphing all of the data that you have in an organization. It graphs it, and it creates priorities, and then it builds a language model according to your data that's been graphed. And from there, it helps automate things for you. And that automation itself, a lot of it's making decisions off of the knowledge you've built in your organization. You know what those data sources are, what's important, and as you, I, it's hard for me to leverage because I'm not a knowledge management person, but I have seen where with data loss prevention, DLPs, we have to assign criticality to data. We have to say this data is more critical than that data. Why? Well, it's important to our business, whatever the reason is. And so you have to be able to tag data and decompartmentalize, yeah, compartmentalize the data to where in the organization you can assign priorities, and then what's important is easy to read. Well, with knowledge management, that's kind of, I don't know if that's the area, but you're doing some of the similar types of things. And so I just see that with Copilot, I can see that enhancing more of what you do. I don't know how, but I see it's almost in the same areas though. So you have to figure out how to leverage that. I don't know, but I think it would be a great tool for you in the future.
Well, it sounds like it's a lot of work coming up. So,
Mhm.
Jamie, now that we're come to the conclusion here, how do you feel about machine learning? Is that like a AyAyAyAi, or like AyAyAyAi?
It's AyAyAi. There's a lot.
Jamie, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate your inputs and thoughts. we're definitely going to have to do a part 2 of this, because knowledge management only is like scratching the surface at this point. We need to go so much deeper. So we're looking forward to your comeback when you settle into your new residence.
Yeah. Awesome. I'll see you in the summer then.
Lucky.
AyAyAyAi.
This is what I said, JB.
All right.
Take care, guys.
All right. Take care.
See you guys soon.